Hello learners, this is Professor Warsi from the Department of Linguistics at Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. Today I would be talking about the topic language and migration. This lecture is a part of the course Migrated Women's Writings. So let us begin with our today's lecture on language and migration. Migration and language change are important topics for researchers in demographics, sociolinguistics, and linguistic anthropology. Throughout human history, people have continuously migrated, and in recent years, international migration has become more widespread. This rise in migration has sparked increased interest in various aspects, such as the social and economic traits of migrants, their reasons for moving, and how they adapt to their new communities. It also examines how migration influences language structure and diversity, as well as how language aids migrants in assimilating into their new societies. Language serves as more than just a means of communication. It is an essential system for expression, shared understanding, and the preservation of culture. Each language encapsulates the history, values, perspective, and its speakers, forming the foundation of both individual and collective identity. It plays a critical role in how communities connect, develop, and flourish. So, migration involves the movement of individuals from one place to another, often crossing national or regional borders in search of new opportunities, safety, or improved living conditions. This global phenomenon has significantly influenced human history, impacting demographics, economies, and importantly, the languages. The significance of this topic lies in the intersections of language and migration with culture, identity, and communication. Migration profoundly impacts language, leading to change, loss, and the emergence of new forms. Migrants introduced their languages, dialects, and cultural expressions into new environments, resulting in vibrant linguistic landscapes, and blend languages, create distinct dialects, and promote multilingual societies. As these languages interact, they evolve, illustrating a compelling narrative of cultural adaptation, resilience, and innovation. In our increasingly globalized world, where migration is at unprecedented levels, it is essential to understand how migration influences language and how languages shapes the experiences of migrants. This exploration helps us view language not merely as a tool but as a dynamic and integral aspect of human identity. Investigating the relationship between language and migration deepens our appreciation for cultural diversity and enhances our understanding of social and political dynamics within multilingual communities, which is increasingly relevant in contemporary society. Cultural diversity is central to human heritage, with language at its core representing the collective wisdom of culture worldwide. When languages fade or disappear, it is a loss not only for the communities but for humanity as a whole, affecting cultural identity, social dynamics, and personal connections. There is an urgent need to preserve and revitalize languages through systematic documentation, enhanced status and recognition, policy support, and institutional backing. Today, in this lecture, we will explore the factors driving language shift and death and highlight strategies essential for sustaining cultural diversity. Today, we will explore the historical context of migration and language, the linguistic effects of migration, the role of language in shaping identity, and the policies that influence how languages are preserved or transformed in new environments. By the conclusion, we will have to gain a richer understanding of how languages evolve through migration and the implications for the future of linguistic diversity around the globe. Migration has been a fundamental aspect of human history, significantly shaping not only demographics of various regions but also the evolution and spread of languages. From ancient mass migration to contemporary movements, the interactions between different cultures and languages have consistently led to linguistic change, adaptation, and growth. Migration has occurred for thousands of years, ranging from small-scale local movements to extensive migration across continents. These movements have been driven by various factors, including environmental changes, conflicts, and the search for new resources and economic opportunities. To understand how migration has influenced language development, we can explore both ancient and modern examples. We can start with Bantu expansions. This migration began around 1000 BCE and continued until approximately 1700 CE. It involved the movement of Bantu-speaking groups throughout sub-Saharan Africa, leading to the spread of Bantu languages and significant linguistic and cultural transformations across the continent. This expansion resulted in the emergence of numerous new Bantu languages and dialects as migrating groups encountered diverse indigenous populations, facilitating linguistic adaptations and blending. Then Indo-European migrants, which is very important to understand that another significant example of ancient migration is the spread of Indo-European languages. These migrations, which began thousands of years ago, involved groups moving from a common origin, likely in the Eurasia steppe, across Europe and into South Asia. This movement introduced related language families such as Germanic, Romance, and Indic across the vast regions. Today, Indo-European languages are among the most widely spoken in the world, highlighting the lasting impact of these ancient migrations on linguistic landscape. Globalization, which has been in recent past a much debated topic in our interconnected world, economic opportunities, education, and trade have driven widespread migration. As individuals relocate to new countries for work, study, or improved living conditions, they bring their native languages, thus influencing the linguistic composition of their host societies. For example, significant migration from Spanish-speaking countries to the United States have strengthened the prominence of Spanish, particularly in the states like California, Texas, and Florida. Then we can also have to see the conflict and refugee movement as well as part of the migration, like war, political instability, and persecution have compelled millions to migrate, especially in recent years, from regions such as Middle East and North Africa to Europe and North America. These migrations introduce new languages and dialects to host countries, affecting local communities and creating a demand for language learning and translation services. The growth of Arabic-speaking communities in Europe, for instance, has led to the incorporation of Arabic into public services and educational system in some nations. Migration due to economic conditions, the pursuit of labor and economic opportunities drives migration both within and between continents. For example, many migrant workers from South Asia have moved to Gulf countries, impacting the region's linguistic landscape. While Arabic remains the official language, the presence of languages such as Hindi, Urdu, and Bengali has increased due to the substantial migrant workforce. Migration has always been a powerful force of transformation, not only shifting population but also reshaping cultural and linguistic landscapes around the world. When migration brings together speakers of different languages, the resulting interactions often lead to the development of new linguistic forms. These encounters can give rise to phenomena such as pidgin and creoles, as well as widespread borrowing and blending of linguistic elements. Talking about pidgins, which is part of the socio-linguistic study and migration, a pidgin is a simplified language that developed as a means of communication between speakers of different native languages who require a common language for interaction, often in the trade or work context. Pidgins typically feature limited vocabulary and simplified grammar, enabling basic communication. For example, West African Pidgin English emerged from interactions between English-speaking colonial traders and African communities, facilitating trade communication and the development of Pidgin in that context. Talking about the creoles, the another aspect, when a Pidgin becomes the native language of a community and evolves to include more complex grammar and vocabulary, it can develop into a creole. Creoles are fully developed languages in their own right, with native speakers who pass the language on to future generations. As an example is Haitian Creole, which originated from a blend of French and various African languages and is now spoken natively by millions in Haiti. Migration often results in the borrowing and blending as well of words, phrases, and structures from different languages. These borrowed terms are typically adopted to express concepts, objects, or ideas that are absent in the borrowing language, reflecting the cultural exchanges that occur through migration. English serves as the prime example of language heavily influenced by contact with other languages due to migration and cultural interaction. Terms such as cave from French, kindergarten from German, safari from Swahili, and jungle from Hindi have entered into English through encounters with other cultures. This borrowing phenomenon is not unique to English. For instance, Spanish has incorporated words from Arabic due to the historical presence of Arabic-speaking Moors in the Iberian Peninsula, with terms like azúcar, like sugar, and ojala, like hopefully, illustrating the influence of Arabic on Spanish vocabulary. The historical context of migration underscores how human movement has led to rich linguistic diversity through the blending, borrowing, and transformation of languages. From ancient migrant to modern transformational movements, the interaction of languages has produced new dialects, fostered bilingualism and multilingualism, and even created entirely new languages. Understanding this history provides valuable insights into the ongoing evolution of language in response to human mobility and cultural interactions. One of the primary ways migrations impact languages is through language loss and shift. Migrant communities often adapt to the dominant language or new language of their new home country for socio-economic integration, education, and employment. Over time, this shift can lead to a gradual loss of migrants' native language, especially among younger generations who may feel a stronger connection to the dominant language in their daily lives. Language shift on the replacement of one language by another occurs when a community moves from using one language to another. Typically, this shift happens as the new language is seen as more prestigious or widely useful. Researchers have studied this phenomenon to help protect languages that face declining use, like Glaser of 1966. Minority and immigrant languages, in particular, have long faced pressure from dominant languages, which can lead to a decline in their use and relevance. This has been noted by Lissager of 2006. According to Baker of 2001, notes that the process often show up as the reduction in native speakers. Language preservation can help a language retain speakers and remain in use by families and communities. This has been noted by Baker in his work of 2001. The end point of the shift, where a language ceases to be used at all, is called language death. This has also been noted by the same author Baker in his work of 2001. Although a language shift does not necessarily result in language death, a gradual decline often leads to a speaker to adopt a dominant language, reducing proficiency in their ancestral language over time. This has been noted by Holmes in his work of 2013. Many languages have already gone extinct. For example, Australia once had over 250 indigenous languages, but only about 24 to 25 remain today due to colonization and disease that impacted Aboriginal populations. This has been stated according to the 2007 work of Littner. Language shift or the loss of a culturally important language indicates broader cultural changes. The main drivers of language shift and death include social, economic, and political pressures. Migration often contributes to the shift as families adopt a dominant language to navigate a monolingual society, integrate in schools and workplaces, and access social services. Dominant languages such as English in many Western countries are often associated with better job prospects. So language shift can lead to the disintegration of cultural communities, impacting family structures, increasing social issues, and eroding personal identities. Addressing this issue requires dedicated effort to preserve endangered languages. People who migrate frequently experience a complicated linguistic interactions as they adjust to the prevailing language of their new surroundings while juggling their original tongues. This dynamic can result in a thriving kind of multilingualism or bilingualism where people combine their native tongue with the language of the host community instead of just giving up their native tongue. This language maintenance is not just about communication. It plays a crucial role in preserving cultural identity and heritage. Through language, migrants share their stories, traditions, and values, fostering a sense of belonging and community. Migrant communities frequently adopt proactive measures to encourage language maintenance in order to combat the difficulties caused by language shift, which occurs when a community's original language may deteriorate in favor of the dominant language. Establishing language learning focused community workshops, cultural organizations, and language schools are all part of this. For example, legacy language schools in the United States provide an immersive atmosphere for younger generations by combining language instruction with cultural lectures, art, and festivals. By doing this, these programs provide kids the tools they need to succeed in a bilingual society and promote pride in linguistic heritage. The impact of migration on language is both challenging and inspiring. Migration can lead to the endangerment of minority languages, but it also brings the potential for linguistic diversity and enrichment. If we want to preserve this diversity, it is essential to support efforts in language preservation, education, and bilingual programs. Language maintenance refers to the efforts made by the families to keep their native language alive and used within the family. Family language policy refers to the rules and decisions made by the families about which language or languages to use and how to use them. This can be influenced by factors such as the country they live in, their beliefs and values, and their interactions with others. For example, a family may choose to speak their native tongue at home and use the dominant language of the country outside of the home. This can be a challenge for families, especially when they are living in a country where their native language is not widely spoken. Teachers and schools can also play a role in shaping family language policy, as they may have their own beliefs and practices about language use. This can impact how immigrant families maintain their native language and pass it on to their children. It is important for families to consider their language policy and make decisions that support the maintenance of their native language. Governments have the authority to shape language use and education for immigrants through policies that range from promoting multilingualism to enforcing assimilation. These policies can have long-lasting effects on immigrant communities and their languages, impacting not only how languages are passed down, but also how immigrant identities are formed in new country. Many countries offer language education programs designed to help immigrants communicate and integrate. For instance, in the United States, English as a second language classes are widespread, providing English instruction to help immigrants gain proficiency in the dominant language. These programs are commonly provided through public schools, adult education centers, community colleges, and non-profit organizations. By facilitating English acquisition, ESL programs often aim to support immigrants in navigating daily life, finding employment, and accessing social services. Alongside government policies, social and community responses to linguistic diversity are pivotal. Non-governmental organizations like NGOs, community groups, and other civic organizations often play active roles in supporting linguistic diversity, providing resources, and creating spaces where immigrant communities can celebrate and preserve their cultural heritage. One of the main obstacles is simply a lack of resources. Many communities don't have the funding or educational materials they need to preserve their languages effectively. Without these resources, it becomes difficult to create language programs or provide quality learning materials, and the resources that it becomes difficult for the material, and it leaves language preservation efforts struggling to survive. Then there are societal pressures to assimilate. In many places, people feel pressure to speak only the dominant language to integrate more easily. Especially in professional and social environments, this pressure can make it harder to younger generations to see the value of learning their heritage language when everything around them, from a school to workplace, is focused on the dominant language. Additionally, educational systems and public spaces often prioritize the dominant language, leaving little room for minority languages. Schools are often monolingual, and public documents, media, and even entertainment are rarely available in these less commonly languages. This makes it challenging to foster an environment where minority languages can thrive. Having talked about this, if you look at the future perspective, as migration continues to shape societies around the globe, we are witnessing emerging trends that will profoundly impact the future of languages. One of the most influential forces in this process is technology. As more people migrate and settle in different countries, technology is transforming how they use, adapt, and preserve their native language. Role of technology in language use and maintenance has become very important. So technology has become a powerful bridge for migrants to stay connected to their native languages and cultures. Even when living far from home, social media platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and YouTube allow migrant communities to maintain communication with friends and family in their native language. These platforms also enable communities to create virtual spaces where they can gather, share cultural content, celebrate festivals, and promote language use. This sense of community helps migrants feel a strong connection to their linguistic heritage, which is crucial for language preservation across generations. Then we can talk about translation apps are another important tool helping people adapt to their new environments without losing touch with their original language. Apps like Google Translate and DeepL allow users to quickly and accurately translate between languages, making it easier for migrants to navigate day-to-day interactions while still engaging with their native language. This not only eases the transition into a new culture but also ensures that their native language remains relevant and useful. Now, when we talk about language preservation and documentation, essential for us to look at this as many migrant languages face the risk of decline. Digital platforms and archives have become critical for language preservation. Online resources now serve as virtual libraries, storing essential information about endangered and minority languages that might otherwise be lost. Digital documentation include audio and video recordings of fluent speakers, online dictionaries, and grammar resources, while collectively help capture the language's full scope. This documentation is essential for languages that lack extensive written records, as it creates a lasting archive that future generations can access to learn about their heritage. For example, organizations like the Endangered Language Project and language-specific initiative on platforms such as Wiktionary and Omniglot gather and publish resources on thousands of languages, many of which are spoken by migrant communities. These platforms serve as open access repositories where anyone can find information on grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and cultural context. This accessibility ensures that anyone from linguists to community members can access and learn from these resources. Then next is language learning apps and online courses also contribute to preservation efforts by making these languages accessible to a broader audience. Apps like Duolingo, Memrise, and Mango languages offer courses in languages that are often underrepresented in traditional educational settings. These courses not only serve migrant communities but also enable non-native speakers to learn these languages, expanding the potential for global awareness and interest in endangered languages. For migrant families, this means younger generations can engage with their heritage language even if it is not spoken in their immediate community or in their school. Looking at the future, we can also see that technology will likely continue to play a transformative role in language preservation, offering new avenues for education and engagement. Virtual reality and augmented reality, for example, are emerging tools that could immerse users in cultural and linguistic environments, helping them experience language as it is spoken within its cultural context. These technologies might allow younger generations to interact with native speakers or engage in virtual simulations of cultural traditions, deepening their connections to the language. In addition, if you look at AI-driven language tools, are also advancing quickly, making it easier to translate, transcribe, and understand languages that were previously less accessible due to limited resources. AI-powered language models can assist in translating languages with fewer speakers, enabling them to appear more frequently in digital spaces and making them more visible to the global community. This increased visibility and accessibility can strengthen the viability of minority languages, ensuring they continue to be spoken and shared across generations. While technology alone cannot fully address the challenges of language loss, it offers essential tools to support language use, preservation, and learning among migrant communities. As these digital resources continue to develop, they will play an ever-growing role in shaping the linguistic future of a globally connected world. With continued efforts, technology has the potential to keep the world's languages vibrant and accessible, preserving the cultural richness they embody for generations to come. Finally, we can say that language serves as both a bridge for integration and safeguard of cultural diversity. For migrants, learning a dominant language of their new environment is essential for assessing education, employment, and social connections, helping them to fit in and thrive in a new society. At the same time, maintaining their native language allows them to stay connected to their cultural roots, share their heritage with future generations, and contribute to the rich amalgamation of global diversity. Balancing these two roles, adapting to a new linguistic environment while preserving one's own, helps create inclusive, multicultural societies where different identities coexist and enrich one another. This dual function of language underscores its immense value in fostering belonging and sustaining the unique voices that make our world so vibrant. As migration continues to shape communities worldwide, recognizing and supporting both aspects of language can ensure that individuals feel at home while still honoring the diverse traditions they bring with them. So with this, I would like to thank you for listening and going through my lectures. Thank you very much. Hope you have some enriching ideas about the language and migrations. Thank you very much.